At first, the trees behind the McKinnon dorm had looked like a real woods. The leaves were facing up as though it might rain. I stood by the bedroom window, my nose accidentally touching the glass, and I watched my parents walk down the path towards their car. On the drive, the car window hadn't been shut all the way. The wind had buffeted as we drove, killed all conversation. My mother, a few times, looked over her shoulder at me, arm pressing against the back of my father's seat so that she could crane her neck to see me. I wanted her to ask if I would be all right. I wanted her to turn to my father, say, "Are we really going to leave her?" The beginning of a tearful conversation. But the next time my mother turned, she met my eyes and she mouthed, "That's making a lot of noise." And I realized she hadn't been looking back at me, but at the sound of the wind rushing by. I felt like I'd had a terrible day, even though I hadn't. The day had been long, not terrible. But, being alone, everything I thought was true, so I thought, what a terrible day. And I sat in my room. My suitcase was still open. Before they'd left, my parents had made the bed for me. I thought of them pulling the sheets up, patting the duvet. I'd noticed the wrinkles on their hands as they smoothed out the sheets. Tight gold rings around their fingers. Were they old? I'd wanted to lie down and have them make the bed over me as though I were a child. But I'd stayed standing, watching unhelpfully as they worked. It didn't take long before everything was made, unpacked. My parents had looked around the dorm room, and then they'd looked at me. The walls around us were white and bare. Absolute possibility. When I met their eyes, I felt like promising them something. But what to promise eluded me. And with the bed already pressed so flat, my father said, "Okay, we should leave." In the afternoon, there were a lot of introductions. We stood in circles all over campus. We found a landmark, played a get-to-know-you game. The grass had been wet and soft, like washed hair. At 4 o'clock, we stood under the arch of an old tower, and our guide, a girl a few years older, said, "At some point, you'll hear the carillon." We nodded. "That's 51 bronze bells." I looked at all the heavy stones that had been placed, one onto the other, to reach the height of the tower. "It's pretty cool," the guide said. I accidentally met her eyes. She smiled at me, assuredly, and I suddenly wished that she would take me aside and tell me that I should stick with her, that we should hang out. But before I could even smile back or consider another more compelling expression, she and the rest of the group had started to walk away. Near the dorms, we played another game. As instructed, I said my name, and then a hobby, and then 2 truths and a lie. Everyone guessed the lie correctly, and I wondered how I could be transparent already. It had been a bright day. We wore matching red shirts that said Frosh. They smelled like vinegar, and by evening the printing had already started to peel, making some of us Rosh and F-osh. We ate in a big group, arranged by dorm floor. We kept talking and talking. I watched the girl across from me chew, while the girl beside her asked, "Where did you go to high school?" A slipstream of questions and answers. Was it Ashley who had gone to Oakwood? Was it Fiona sitting across from me? And was it rude to ask? And how often was it rude to ask if that was, in fact, her name?
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.